you could be working for your friend right now, or you could be in business with your friend right now, and you could be going through this turmoil within yourself because you think that something's going on, that you're being used or you're being abused, and all these things are coming up.
The number one fear that we have noticed when it has to do with friends is the fear of confrontation.
And you'll find that maybe you've been in a situation like this, or you know people who've been in a situation like this where their staff or teams or management or business partners have taken money because they didn't want to address it themselves. And now they find themselves in this difficult situation.
Telling the truth gives you security. It might give a reaction you are not ready to deal with in the beginning, but it will save you a lot of heartache in the long run, because when somebody else finds out about your wrongdoings through other means, it means the trust is broken.
Hi guys, welcome back to the New Earth. We're so excited to share with you a few topics that you've requested in, and of course we're going to share with you our experiences based on these very topics. So today we are looking into something called, is it possible to be in business with friends, and how to navigate through compromise.
Yes, it is an interesting topic to consider, because when you are going into the new adventure of starting off in your business and doing the startups, the first thought that comes to mind when it comes to partnership would always be people that we know. It will always be people that we already have previous relationships with, people who share our visions, people who know us inside and out. We assume when we're taking on the adventure and partnering up with our friends that means that we are safe. That means that we are understood, and that means that we're about to embark on a journey that is to be shared with a close one.
Yeah, when you're about to jump into anything at all, you have your own preconceptions, and you may have your past pains and experiences that you're pulling into something, if either you're aware of it or it's an unconscious pattern. And when you're going in with somebody else from our own experiences, which we'll explore a little bit more, you can come in completely innocently without any prior experience. So you're not carrying on any prejudgments. And you find out that the people you're going to business with, though their intentions are clear at the beginning, they may have past pains that start to show up and are triggered because of the relationship you have. And we found out something recently. We've got our cafe chains we're opening up called the New Earth Cafe, original. And so when we went into a partnership with our friends at the beginning, it was going to be called something else, right? And they had their own concept already. And for us, we were just excited to share a journey with friends. And we were going to go with their original concept in the summer of last year. So we went into that idea and we went, we have our purpose, we have our vision, because it's in alignment with the New Earth. And things just started to happen along the way, right? Things just went a little bit different, and it was all based on, from what we see, communication.
We had the privilege and the pleasure of being able to partner up with friends of ours that we have known for a really long time. And we are so grateful for that experience, because during the unveiling of the process, we have managed to find out the very core fears and beliefs that people hold within them when they're about to embark on new journeys, and especially when it comes to doing that with friends. Because not only do we face the fear of a new endeavor and adventure, you also face the fear of what would happen to a friendship if, God forbid, anything had to go sour with a business. And we have seen both sides work out and don't work out. We have really taken on this journey with our friends from all the different walks of life and in all the different businesses. Some it has worked out and some it hasn't worked out. And I believe that both experiences are both valuable, because then we get the chance to see what has contributed towards the failure, let's put away, of a partnership, and what has contributed towards the success. So The number one fear that we have noticed when it has to do with friends is the fear of confrontation. So what is the fear of confrontation really? Fear of confrontation at its core has the main fear of being rejected. By actually telling the truth about how you feel and who you are to another person puts you in a vulnerable position of being judged. And this is what we try to avoid at all costs. People, humans, try to avoid at all costs, especially when it comes to people that they hold in high regard. We have had all kinds of different experiences when it came to starting business with friends, and one of them was thankfully and gratefully healed because we have been able to highlight when it was that fear of confrontation that people have experienced, and being able to bring it up to the surface and actually say, hey guys, we see that it is difficult and it is scary to share this truth with us. We would like to relieve you of this burden of having to hold yourself together and appear all perfect, because the truth about a working partnership is honesty.
We had to actually give them the space to be themselves because of that insecurity and that whatever they've been hiding from themselves and to each other, whatever that was, dealing with our own emotions and not to look at the blame game and judging. It was to come together. And a lot of, the emblem in itself is represented by the idea of coming together around a table, a round table for the truth to show up. And I see businesses and partnerships don't work out because they're not willing to sit down and actually hear each other's truths. Because we sat down and we created a space where we wanted it to heal, because friendship was the most important aspect of this relationship, that the business side of it came out even stronger because suddenly they were more aligned to the purpose and vision that we had, because that idea in the New Earth Cafe was something that they wanted to get on board with. It was bigger than their original concept. So we actually transformed the relationship and brought it up because they knew what we were about. They knew they wanted to be a part of something that was bigger than them. They wanted that drive, they wanted that purpose, they wanted that passion, and they actually ultimately changed their life. They're looking to come out and join us out in Dubai, and it's quite a revelation. It could have went one way and it went in a way instead that we have a strong partnership.
So what does it mean, really, jumping into a business relationship with a friend? This is something that you really need to think seriously about, because as it seems to be a safer route to go by in the beginning, going in with a friend and, as I said, the shared vision and the trust that has been built, there are certain aspects and things that you need to consider that only come with experience once a few things have been challenged. And when you're going into a business relationship with a friend, you are stepping into a totally different domain, in totally different reality, because you're almost signing a marriage contract, a commitment contract with a friend. So you are changing your dynamics and you're changing your relationship by adding another dimension to it. And the dimension that you add into it is money, is profit, is perhaps ownership of the rights.
Well, you have to be absolutely crystal clear on what their intentions are and what your own intentions are. You can obviously do your very best to set yourselves up, but it comes down to trust. Trusting that they understand your vision and concept and that you understand what their needs are. So everybody's meeting their needs as you go along in this partnership, because ultimately, if this is not brought up at the beginning and having that difficult conversation, it will show up later and it will be egg in your face. And so it's so important to bring up an agreement, something that you can put down on paper to be crystal clear, because it happens so often that, when suddenly money is getting involved and there's costs, and we've noticed, when that starts to happen and somebody needs to put money in, suddenly there's reservations that come up. Suddenly there's something new that came up that wasn't discussed before, but by then it's already cost somebody some money. And that's when it seems to be the breakdown of a lot of relationships before it goes on any further.
But that's something that comes with experience, of course, and you can only find that out. But as scary as it is to have an honest conversation with your friend with regards to boundaries, because usually with friendships, boundaries are not as easily discussed because it's a more natural, free-flowing process. But when it comes to business, a very clear distinction between the roles of who is responsible for. So where their jurisdiction starts and ends, where yours starts and ends, what rewards each one has, what is the share split, what is the responsibility of each one in having their roles of the monetary contribution as well as their time contribution. As many things as you can foresee before you're jumping into a business relationship with a friend. The best and the most honorable and honest thing you can do for one another is to sit down and discuss as much as possible. You give yourself the time for the margin of error. You give yourself the space for a margin of error, because that's something that will come up as the process goes. But the more is discussed in the beginning, the better. And it is a more loving act by having to put your boundaries first than having to find out later on that certain things have not been discussed, and then they come out when it's too late, and then it has cost somebody money, has cost somebody time. So, a lot of people say, if you don't want to get disappointed, don't start business with a friend. And there is a lot of supporting arguments for that. There is a lot of supporting evidence for that, because more often than not, if there is a dispute between friends and business, it turns out to be a disastrous event, because both the business and the friend suffer. And I have to say, I have personally gone through this. I have started relationships with one of my close friends, and right now, unfortunately, I can say that we are not where we started off as friends, and it's even worse now. We're not on talking, conditions anymore. And unfortunately, what happens is that business relationship, what it does, it accelerates all the insecurities, all the fears that you might have had in relationship to yourself and your friend. So what you're doing is, and that's something that you have to be aware of, is that to the friendship paradigm, you are adding a cocktail of other insecurities on top when it has to do with money, when it has to do with ownership and rights, when it has to do with safety. So you're adding another aspect of safety and security to it that comes under question if, God forbid, something within your friendship doesn't work out. So it's very important to know that everything is possible, and you can always work out your relationship, your business relationship with a friend. But the more you can foresee in the beginning, and the more you can work out in the beginning, the better it will be for everyone, right?
Well, look, it comes down to experience. We can teach you as much as we can say here and try to set yourselves up to avoid disappointment. And some of us still feel like we need to go through that experience and feel it, and you can hear it and still find yourself in this situation. So, it's always be kind to yourself when you find yourself in this situation, to make sure that you find out the truth of a situation. We've had people who have sat across us. They have built a picture in their head, a story that they deem as true. Even though there's nothing to warrant that truth, and you give them the opportunity to express that truth around the table, literally, and they would rather stick to their own truth, even though they have an opportunity to hear the full truth, because that truth to them serves as an agenda. It serves as a point for them to get something out of it, because then they give them permission to behave a certain way, even though it's not justified, to get the result they want. Mm-hmm. And when they do that, then there is no love, because nobody's willing to hear each other talk to find a resolve for the greater good. They just are in fear mode and in scarcity mode. And when somebody's in that mode, they're in a place of taking. And that's quite dangerous. When we found ourselves in a situation where we realized somebody in our team was thinking that way, we had to safeguard ourselves and cut them out quickly, because we knew they weren't in their right mind. They were in scarcity. They wanted to smash and grab, you know? And when you find yourself with team members like that, you have to act fast. And it's about protecting yourself, but protecting them from themselves, because again, they're not in their right mind. So you need to be aware and address this. And you'll find that maybe you've been in a situation like this, or you know people have been in a situation like this where their staff or teams or management or business partners have taken money because they didn't want to address it themselves, right? They didn't safeguard themselves to bring about a conversation to find true transparency, and now they find themselves in this difficult situation. Now you can see yourself as a victim in it, or you see yourself as a leader and go, I should have, I could have, or whatever, put certain perimeters in place to best protect myself and them. But instead, I didn't see the signs. I didn't want to see the signs. Why did I not want to see those signs? What is it about me that didn't want to see those signs? So, you know, this is so important if you want to do things in the world. And the bigger you get, the more of these challenges you're going to find yourself in, because that is human nature. The more we do this, the more we notice that we are faced with situations like this. And instead of going, oh, why is it happening to us? It's happening for us to evolve, to grow, to share these experiences so that we know we have the right people around us. And thankfully, these experiences taught us who are the people to have around us and who are the people not to have around us. And because of that experience, we feel that our team is growing exponentially, and these new things are coming out of it because the people are more aligned to what it is that we're about, because it's clearer to us now. We know what our values are based on the experiences of people who are not aligned with ours. We had to be more clearly defined in order to know what we're about. And because of that, you know, we are in a much better place. We're able to deliver, I think, better content and quality of content to you, because we've literally got a whole new team around us shooting this, for example.
And the thing is that, as Alex has pointed it out so beautifully, as we grow ourselves as humans, as we grow ourselves within ourselves, we change the parameters of the standards that we have for what we deliver, as well as who we have around us. And we have gone through experiences where we had information withheld from us, we had money stolen from us, we had our property taken away without our consent, where we were faced with the situations where we were the last ones to find out about the decisions that was made that was not in our favor. And of course, you know, there's always two people to tango. And I agree with Alex completely when he says about the truth and the honesty. We have to be truthful and honest with ourselves first. Are we ready to hear the truth about what really goes on in your relationship with another person? You know, we have gone through all of these difficulties because there was a lack of communication, because we haven't been able to maybe communicate our standards and our boundaries as well as the other person didn't feel comfortable enough to tell us the truth about what actually has gone on. So communication is the number one parameter in any partnership, in any friendship, in any business relationship. You being able to constantly be on the same page and reaffirm and reassure the reality that you both co-creating together is success. It's not in numbers. It's in communication and understanding. And the number one, I believe, number two, issue that stands in the way of a successful partnership is distance, right? So when there is distance that is created, whether it is a physical distance, emotional distance, whether it is a communication distance, that distance creates the space between the people for people to start filling in the blanks about what is actually going on. So people, more often than not, start making up their own ideas about what is actually happening between people. And then when they get those ideas, because they feed so much energy into that idea, they start making up reasons for the other person for having created that problem. And that's a recipe for disaster.
Well, they start creating the exit plan. As I said, when you're faced with a situation like that and you feel that's going on, trust your intuition at that point to address it. It's better to address it and bring it out, even if if it's not true, in order to stop, as Tony Robbins used to say, kill the monster while it's small, before it grows up to be anything bigger. And you could be working for your friend right now, or you could be in business with your friend right now, and you could be going through this turmoil within yourself because you think that something's going on, that you're being used or you're being abused, and all these things are coming up because of past trauma from your childhood maybe playing up, and you're projecting onto this person, your mum or your dad or your brother or your sister or uncle, aunt, whatever it might be. And it can really distract you from what the truth is, because you're so used to that feeling of what you felt back then that it must be true. And you're going based on that feeling that's guiding you in the wrong direction. And we've seen many people do this. So it's better just to, you may be feeling overworked. We noticed one team member would say nothing, and then we noticed that a lot of our businesses were falling down because they weren't being honest with us, saying they couldn't handle it or they couldn't take it on. And they had their own reasons why they couldn't tell us that. Right? And they would then probably potentially resent that person for putting too much pressure on them. But we've also had people in our team who've been amazing, who, if it gets too much, they will say, hey, I need a breather. And you just go, cool. And you know that. It's about knowing each other. It's about working with each other, being in the flow with each other, and not to take advantage of other people, right? And so when we see this, it's all based down on communication, not being afraid to
tell the truth.
Yeah.
Being honest. A lot of people have the idea that they are not safe in telling the truth. A lot of people have the idea that lies save them, but it's an illusion, because even though you might be momentarily, thank you, saved while telling the lie. So you're postponing the consequence of your actions. Yeah. What it does is that it still creates that leeway and that runway for a build-up for a disaster. We had recently a situation with our team member where the person has chosen not to tell the truth because they were scared of our reaction, and they were scared that we will say no. So what they have done is that they went ahead and still went ahead with what it is that they wanted to do, taking things with what they wanted to do, but without telling us. So we eventually found out. And when we eventually have found out, it didn't make the person look in a good light. And their answer was, oh, well, I was just too scared to tell the truth. So that showed me that there is a belief that telling the truth is not safe. And what I urge you to change in your mind, in the paradigm, is that telling the truth gives you security. It might give a reaction you are not ready to deal with in the beginning, but by being able to tell it more often, you will build that stamina to deal with the reactions. But it will save you a lot of heartache in the long run, because when somebody else finds out about your wrongdoings through other means, it means the trust is broken. And it's so much harder to rebuild the trust than to build it, because then once or twice you have already broken somebody else's trust, people don't forget it.
Yeah, I was going to say, when you're telling the truth, invest in yourself, invest in communication, how to tell the truth in a way that the other person can easily swallow it. When you learn how to be able to tell the truth in a way that's masterful, you're not so afraid to tell the truth, because they won't react so strongly if you're so blunt with the truth. And you can say the truth in a way that brings people together. And it's such a necessary skill that most people avoid, of course, because when you have representation of governments, politicians who you feel that just lie outright, who do you have as mentors out there? Who is guiding you? Corporations that show one thing, but they're lying completely about their data or anything else that they're giving to the world at the detriment of your health and well-being. Who is there to show you this way? So, there's no blame on you. There's no judgment, because what have you had? What have you had as a role model, as guidance? And we're all seeking that. We all want to see more people out there in the world who are willing to stand up for truth and honor, and willing to deal with whatever that means and comes with, because you're being the face of it. Being the face of New Earth is about not hiding anything and being transparent with everything.
And it starts with your relationship with your parents. Because when the child is young and they're about to face a punishment and they know they're about to face a punishment, this is when the little child learns to lie in order to avoid the pain. So that relationship with the parents that we have ever since we're little starts to grow and develop into our relationship with our teachers, into our relationship with our partners, into our relationship with our bosses. So what happens is that initial projection of that defragmented reality where the child has given himself the permission to lie in order to avoid the immediate pain has created a chain reaction that is now echoing into relationships with the other people.
And you know what? It's all about moving away from pain towards pleasure. And when you lie, you're avoiding pain for that brief moment to move towards pleasure. But that starts to build up over time, that the pain gets bigger and bigger to try to avoid, that you're just living in a life of avoiding big pain always. And that becomes your life, just running. You become a runner, and if you're in a running mentality and you're having to lie, then obviously you have to create situations in your life to keep on lying. That's the funny thing. You need to bring it about. You have to then create situations to lie in order to keep that illusion going.
So it's a lot of energy that goes towards keeping up appearances and keeping up the illusion that will sooner or later shatter. So where we want to bring you towards the end of our video is that when you are building any relationships, when you're building friendships, when you're building partnerships, trust is the number one, investment that you can make into creating the strength of that bond. And trust is built upon consistency. By being consistent in what you say and what you do and how you perform will create the value scale upon which you can always rely on. And even if you go from one employer to the next, from one partner to the next, when you have that value scale built in you, it's unshakable and unbreakable.
And just going based on the values to finish up, the compromising. You never compromise in your values, never compromise on where you see the company going and the values it holds, but you can compromise on the designs and the materialistic things. So never compromise on yourself and your values for the sake of a partnership over money.
Exactly. So you have to decide what you don't compromise. And for example, in our case, we don't compromise on transparency.
Honesty, serving of others. We put others first. If it's our service, it's about them. What is it we can fulfill the client, the customer's needs first? And it's about the feelings, and it's about giving. It's about making sure that we can supply the very best for that experience and for their health and well-being.
For everyone. Now, I would challenge this one, and I would say it's for everyone. It's harmony, and it's putting all of our priorities together, because nobody needs to be put first or last. We can all put one common goal.
Putting them first before profit is what I'm saying. That's it, ultimately what I'm saying. It's not about being ourselves. It's because everybody's so profit driven in such a consumer capitalist market that they're about that first. And that should be put on the back. That should be the byproduct of serving the partnership and clients and customers. So we want to be aligned to our purpose and vision, have anybody comes into our life to be aligned with the purpose and vision, and making sure that you feel protected, you feel safe, you can let go, that there's a clear intention behind it. And, that's about it.
Thank you for joining us for this video. It was a pleasure uncovering it. It's been a very close to heart topic and subject, because that's something that we deal with on a daily basis. I'm pretty sure it's one of many more videos that will come on this topic. But for now, we would love to hear your comments, your likes and shares. I would love for you to be part of our community continuously, because as Alex says, we're here to serve you and hold the space for your own uncovering.
Yeah, so please write down anything, comments, questions. What do you want us to cover next time so that we can best serve you? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.